and welcome to another three-string coda guitar cigar box guitar lesson. So we've done quite a few videos on slide technique, but not so much on fretting, playing riffs. So this is just a short lesson on like how to use your left-hand fingers well and how to sort of adapt scales to create riffs. So first of all, tuning up, we're standard tuning, or the most common tuning for three-string, which is G on the bass string, and D on the middle string, and G again on the top string. So G, D, G. Okay, so often on a three-string cigar box guitar, we don't have what you call a metal truss rod running through the neck. So in order to support the neck, because you get a lot of tension off the strings when they're tuned up, you get quite a thick neck on it to sort of counteract the tension from the strings. So whereas with a normal guitar, it might sometimes feel comfortable to get your thumb over the top. Sometimes, if we're trying to get a bit more of a stretch in between frets, it can be quite good to bring your thumb a little bit lower, a little bit further down the back of the neck. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start off, we'll learn a scale, but first of all we're just going to go for fret number 3. So I'm going to play the bottom string, the bass string, and I'm going to use finger 1. So for our fretting hand, which is normally a left hand, we use 1, 2, 3, 4. We number the fingers. Okay, so I'm going to use finger 1, which is the index finger, and I'm going to push down onto fret 3 of the lowest sounding string. So what I'm going to do with my thumb is I'm going to have it just a little bit further around the back of the neck, so there's a bit of a sort of pinching motion there. It's quite good support. If you play slide on your guitar, you might find that the action, the distance of the strings is a bit higher than say on a normal guitar, and so you've just got to squeeze, you've got to pinch down just a little bit harder. So having that particular little grip there is quite useful. You don't feel like you're putting so much effort in. And also, what it will mean is if your thumb's a little bit further down the back of the neck, if you say wanted to stretch up or reach up to fret number 5, so I'm going to use finger 3 and I'm going to try and reach up to fret 5 there. And because my thumb's a bit further down the back of the neck, I can get that stretch. If it's up here, my fingers feel a bit bunched up, I can't separate them as easily. Sometimes that's great, you know, for some chord shapes, but if we want a bit more of a spread with our fingers, just drop your thumb a bit. So as well as this hand position, whereabouts you push down with your finger is really useful as well to think about. So I'm literally just behind the fret. So if you can see this, when we fret a note, what happens is the note doesn't come from where the finger is making contact with the string. You can see that the sound was basically the same all the way through there. What's actually happening is the finger's trapping the string onto the fret itself. So if we get our finger quite close, as close as is comfortable, to what we call the front fret, so 1, 2, 3, fret 3 is the front fret in this case, fret 2 is the back fret. If we get really close to fret 3, then we'll get a cleaner sound. We won't, if I'm too close to fret 2, the back fret, you get quite a rough sort of rattly sound because the string's actually bouncing around on top of the fret because we're not making proper contact with it. Okay, so just if you can see that angle there. And so whenever we're playing single note riffs, it's quite good to always try and get that same hand position. So say if I'm going to push down onto fret number 5, but I'm going to keep my thumb in the same position and I'm going to use finger 3. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to get pretty close to the fret there as well. So another thing, if we go a little bit too far and we're actually making contact with the fret, you get a muffled sound. So I've actually got what we call flat wound strings on this, so they're quite mellow sounding anyway. So if you've got normal round wound ones, it'll probably be much more apparent if you're basically touching the front fret. It dampens the note slightly, so you don't actually want to touch the fret. You want to be, you can hear it a bit on that one, you want to be just behind it. Okay. So I'm going to stay in this position all the way through. So thumb basically behind finger 1, which is pinching onto just behind fret 3. And I'm going to play the open G to start with, and then I'm going to play fret 3, and then I'm going to play fret 5, and then I'm going to move on to the middle string, and that's open, and then I'm going to play fret 3, fret 5, and then we can even go onto the top string. That's actually the same note as fret 5, but we'll carry on, it's useful. And then we'll play frets 3 and 5 again. So that is it's a 5-note scale, so it's a pentatonic scale, and it sounds minor because of the notes in it, so it's a minor pentatonic scale, which is probably the most common scale that gets used for like blues or sort of roots musics, rock as well. You know, there's so many guitar solos that use the minor pentatonic, so it's a great one to start with. So I'll just do that one more time. So we've got open low G, fret 3, fret 5, you see my thumb's just staying in one position there, open middle string, fret 3, fret 5, that was the open D string, open top string, top G, high G, frets 3 and 5, can come down back through that, 5 to 3, open, and then so I played more than 5 notes there, but actually I went past what we call the octave. So if I play it again, I'll count. So I've got 1, first note, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and this next note here, which is on fret 5 of the middle D string, that's a G. So we've actually arrived at what we call the octave. So we don't count that as the 6th note because it's the same as where we started. And then we'd just be carrying on from that G, which is an octave higher than where we started, and that's going into what we call the 2nd octave. But it's a really good little exercise, that, just to keep your thumb in one position and just work your way up, just playing the same frets each time, and then coming back down. For these pentatonic scales, you'll find that you'll use fingers 1 and 3 a lot. Really useful. We can also we've actually covered the same scale in the slide video lesson, where we're just working on slide technique with the left hand. There's also lessons on how to play with your right hand, either like finger picking. I'm using a thumb pick here. You can just use your thumb without the pick, it sounds fine. Use your fingers, use a normal guitar plectrum. We're just focusing on the fretting hand, the left hand here. So we can also play that scale just at 1 string. So I can play open 3, 5, which is just on the highest sounding G string, top string, and then I can step up to fret 7, and then I can go to fret 10, and then I can go up to fret 12. So that is again hitting another G, an octave higher than where we started. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there's the next G. So fingers I'm using here, I'm definitely using fingers 1 and 3, finger 1 on fret 3, finger 3 on fret 5. I'll probably do a little shift up. So you see, when we're moving up the neck, my thumb is going to follow. It's not going to stay planted where it was originally. It's going to follow where my first finger's going, and it's going to fret number 7. Thumb roughly behind fret 7. You can either reach up here with your third finger onto fret 10, or you can even use finger 4, so whichever one you feel comfortable with. And then from fret 7 and 10 I can either shift up again to fret 12, or if I was say using finger 3 on fret 10, I could try and reach up again with my little finger. That's a bit of a stretch though, so it's fine to open fret 3, fret 5, shift, first finger fret 7, stretch with your third finger, or just place your little finger on fret 10, whichever one you want to use, and then shift up again. And if just completely reverse that mirror image, so octave, shift back down as frets 12, 10, 7, shift, I get my third finger on fret 5, there's a shift, shift back down, another shift back down, finger 3 on fret 5. Okay. So we can do that on the low string because it's the same notes. So if that's an open G and that's an open G, we can just play exactly the same frets. However you played it, sorry, shifting down like that, and then so that's identical to. We can even play starting from this middle G, which is fret 5 on the middle string, and I can either stretch up to fret 8 with my third finger. It's a bit of a stretch that I might use my little finger instead. So finger 1 on fret 5, middle string, finger 4 on fret 8, middle string. I'm going to do a position shift here right up to fret 10, still on the middle string, and then I'll use finger 1, so thumb has gone right up with my first finger, third finger fret 12, and then just to finish the scale off, we're going to go drop down onto string 1, the high G, play fret 10, fret 12. Starting on middle string, fret 5, and then I've used my little finger on fret 8, position shift, thumb goes with my first finger, fret 10, fret 12, and then frets 10 and 12 on the top string. Coming back down, do that one more time. And then coming back down, shift, bit funny there because I've got to shift and use my little finger. So if you practice running up and down all of those separately, when you get used to it, you can potentially start to sort of play through the different patterns. So what I did there, just to make it sound a little bit smoother, I used a couple of what you call hammer-on and pull-off notes. So it's a technique where you flick from a fretted note to another fretted note. So in this case I'm flicking off from fret 7 to fret 5, or I can even flick off from a fretted note to an open string. And the opposite of that is a hammer-on, so that was going from a higher note to a lower one, so flicking off from fret 7, which is higher than fret 5, or fret 3, which is higher than the open string. And the opposite way round would be, say, play the open string and tap on to fret 3, and then maybe play fret 5, this is all on string 1, and tap onto that as well, tap onto fret 7. So let's start with the open string hammer-ons and pull-offs because they're a bit easier. And in fact, I think we'll start with the low G because that's the slightly less tight than this one, so it's easier for the hammer-on. So again, thumb basically in the same position as before, not up here, a little bit further down the back of the neck. So I'm going to use finger 1, and what I'm going to do is just like slap down. Don't feel like you've got to put loads of force on it, it's a quick movement. So if you want to kind of get a bit more of a back lift and come right down, sort of exaggerate the movement to start with, that's fine. And I'm just going to pluck open string, open low G, and tap on quickly. You see that was just a quick movement there. You can hear the actual tap if I don't pluck the note. So okay, and then say what I was doing, I was going from fret 5 and I was going to fret 7, so I'm going to pluck fret 5 if I want a fretted hammer-on, and then keep that there, don't move it, and slap down with finger 3 onto fret 7. So again, this is really useful to keep the thumb there, slap down. So okay, so I did that on the low string. So if you want to try sort of extending it out and practice, say we'll stick with frets 3 and 5. So you can hammer on from the open string to fret 3, and then you can hammer on from fret 3 to fret 5. So I've actually, when I'm hammering on, doing a fretted hammer on, I'm actually keeping my first finger in place. So it's a bit of a stretch, that. Keeping both of those in place, and I'll do exactly the same on the other strings. So that was a hammer on from the open D onto fret 3, and then a hammer on, keeping fret 3 fretted, hammer on onto fret 5, same again. So this on my guitar, that feels a bit tighter, so you might need to put a little bit more effort in to get the volume out of the hammer on. Okay. So if you take your time, then when you get used to it, you can speed it up a bit. So the opposite is a pull-off. So here, it's thumb, same position, finger in the same position. I'm going to pluck fret 3 this time, and I'm going to flick off. Now, the pull-off motion is basically like you're plucking the string with your fretting hand finger, so finger 1 in this case. So don't just lift it off because you don't get enough volume. You want to actually, you're actually just ever so slightly bending the note. So you get a nice twang, you get a pluck, sort of an initial attack to the note when you flick it off, when you pull it off. So try that on the top string as well. So you can hear the sort of plucking sound there. Now don't over bend it. It's just a little flick. Okay, and we can try the same with fretted notes. This is quite a bit harder actually. So when you pull off, this one, finger 1, needs to be already fretted in place, because if it's not, you're doing like a seesaw effect where it's like wait, wait. That's no good. We need to have the weight on with both fingers just before the pull off. So it's like a little flick there. But this one is ready to receive the pull off. So it's not one then the other. Don't seesaw. That's in place, then I'm pulling off. Okay, so, and then I'm gonna flick off to the open string, and then I'm gonna get this in place, pull off there, and then flick off to the open string, and then same again, pull off, and flick off to the open string. Needs a bit of practice, that's quite difficult. So when you get used to this, you get quite a smooth flowing sound using Hammerons and Pulloffs, so it's a good way to make your playing sound quite sort of fluent. It's also quite a good way of getting faster notes out of the instrument, because you can combine Hammerons and Pulloffs, and you can potentially get a much nicer sound at faster speeds than you can if you're trying to pick every single note. But basically, just practice all of that, get it under your fingers, and we've got a couple of other video lessons which are looking at 3-string adaptations of famous tracks such as Money for Nothing, Dire Straits, and classic Doors song from the 60s, Roadhouse Blues. So if you want to check our channel, and we've also got loads of lessons on how to play slide blues lessons and such like, fingerstyle. So I hope that was useful, and we look forward to seeing you here again soon on Coda Guitar.